I'm done. Black Lightning on the CW was the most disappointing release for me last year. It was more disappointing to me than any of the movies. It was more disappointing to me than any of the shows because I expected so much more from it. And don't get me wrong, they're not just phoning it in. The actors are legitimately trying. I cannot fault any. I can't fault Nafisa. I can't fault Chris. I can't fault any of them, right? But they've got the wrong writers. They absolutely have the wrong writers. And get this. This isn't one of those things where I watched a few episodes and that was it, and I'm making my declaration now. I watched every single episode. I watched the first 3 episodes and said to myself, this doesn't feel right. I think I'm gonna stop. And then the last thing that I have to talk about, and this one I saved for last because this one upset me the most, was Black Lightning. Remember when I talked earlier in the video about how I loved how Black Panther looked and I loved the feel of it and I loved how it looks like it's going to be great? Black Lightning has turned into the opposite for me. I was excited about this. At the beginning of the year, I said, this is my number 10 spot. It beat out other movies. It beat out Ant-Man and the Wasp. It beat out The Dark Phoenix. It beat out Aquaman. It beat out so many other movies. So I was looking forward to this show. And the first episode was decent enough. But the cliches were too great. And then I decided I was going to go ahead and finish it because I started. And then when I got to my whole season 1 review, I was like, should you watch this? I'm not feeling it. But if I were to suggest whether or not you should watch this show, but then they decided to restructure how they did stories in season 2, and instead of doing it, each book is 1 episode, they did each book is like 3 or 4 episodes. And so I assumed they'd have a 3 or 4 episode arc, which in a way they did. And they still managed to mess that up somehow. The writers messed that up. When they are writing these episodes, it's as if they don't realize anything about how the real world works. And yes, this is a fantasy, okay? This is not something that is based on a true story. This is based on a comic book. So of course it's a work of fiction. But every good work of fiction has some sort of root to nonfiction. And there's just something about Freeland that doesn't feel real at all. Okay? It's not just the setting, it's the people and how they interact within the setting. As I said, the actors and actresses work out fine, but the characters are written in such a way that every single one of them is unlikable, with the exception of 1 or 2, and everybody else sucks. So let me just kind of break this down as to why I personally say I'm done with the show. I've watched the last Book of Rebellion, and I'm going to incorporate some things within the first 2 chapters of the Book of Rebellion, and then this latest one, which came out on Monday. So yes, I'm a few days late. I was editing the Reeve Awards, the best of 2018. Click that there if you haven't seen it. It's the best thing I've done so far. But this right now, we're talking about Black Lightning and what they do with the characters is so synthetic. It doesn't feel like they're grounded in reality. And also, there are plot points that they explore that I actually enjoy, and then once they're done exploring, they don't ever touch them again. Case in point, the fact earlier in season 2 where he had to step down as principal and become a teacher, and they brought in some other principal, and they had beef because this other principal was very much black and white. It was either you're following the rules or you're not following the rules and you're expelled. And it looked like he was trying to chop away at this private school so that there was nobody there. And they revisited that in like episode 3 or 4 of season 2. And now we're at episode 10. And we haven't seen him since. The most interesting aspect of the season so far, and they barely visited. Just baffles me. And then after that, they had this whole 3-episode issue with them going to a different part of Freeland where apparently banjos play in the background and you can hear cicadas all night long. And then, it's a Hatfield and McCoy, except it's black and white, and there's all... Then they try to make it somewhat interesting, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but then when you have bad guys that capture Black Lightning and then decide to kill him by electrocution, these are the dumbest bad guys ever. Ever. They're, it makes no sense. It's like, how does Black Lightning get out of this? Well, let's make him electrocute him and then he'll power back up.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
And then I'm just prefacing this all up to get to the Book of Rebellion, right? And this is where Jen and Khalil decide to run off because Khalil is running from Tobias and Jen is tired of being under house arrest at home. That makes sense, okay? The setup makes sense, but then they introduce this bad guy Cutter, and she's this black woman who's apparently, so BA that she can do all these things. And the first 2 episodes kind of rubbed me the wrong way, not because of how they acted, because they acted like kids. In chapter 2 of the Book of Rebellion, it's almost like the adults lose their mind. Like Jefferson is using his powers out in the open without any regard of discretion, and then Lynn breaks down. She decides she's gonna grab a shotgun and go confront some felon, and I'm like thinking to myself, at no point in the series did she ever act like this before. And I understand that in this story, her child has been, she's run off, and you are related to 2 superheroes who are out there looking, and you just need to chill, woman. It makes no sense. And then we get to chapter number 3, which came out on Monday. And they come home, which that part doesn't bother me. But here's the part that does. Here's the part that absolutely bothers me. And this is going to be like the nail in the coffin when it comes to my viewership. Khalil decides to turn him in so that he can flip on Tobias. He has to testify, so he's got to go into witness protection. And they have him in the back of the SWAT van as they're transporting him to a secure location. Well, this Cutter chick decides she's going to ambush the convoy, single-handedly, mind you. And she sets up what looks to be like a situation where she's in distress. Keep in mind, this is a convoy full of SWAT personnel, and she is one character with blades, like knives, okay? And they don't show it. And I know why they don't show it, but apparently she kills every single one of these SWAT officers and then takes Khalil back to Tobias. And that just doesn't make any sense for several reasons. Number 1, with that many SWAT personnel, someone's going to shoot her. Just someone's going to shoot her. She's going to die. All right? There's no way that Blade, you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. There's no way she wins in any practical sense of the matter. No way she wins. Okay? At that point, that is John Marston going up against Agent Ross and the other 13 guys. He's not going to win. She'll take out a few, but then she's gonna die like John Marston. The game came out like 10 years ago. Spoilers are overdue for the first Red Dead Redemption, okay? Secondly, and this is even more important, Cutter, the assassin for hire that I'm speaking of, is a black woman. And these are police officers. I'm not going to get into the political aspects of this, but do you think for a second that that would transpire the way that it did in the real world? And then of course, because of the magic of awful writing, none of them have any body cams or any kind of surveillance going on, so they can't track whoever did this. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And like I said, the actors are doing the best job that they can with the material that they're given. But it's just nowhere near good enough. So, if I have to give my last on the line recommendation, and notice that I've given it every chance possible, I have to say without a shadow of a doubt, stop watching this show. There are enough good options out there that you do not have to resort to watching bad writing, because that's exactly what Black Lightning on the CW is full of, is bad writing. You do not have to give up on the character Black Lightning, however. And this is a segue, because Young Justice Outsiders, which is on the DC Universe app, has been coming out with 3 episodes every Friday. And one of the characters in this show is Black Lightning. He is not written stereotypically. Although there is one line that's delivered stereotypically, it was more funny than cringy. And it's a load of fun watching him interact with other characters. It's fun not watching him have to be written so clunky. And he's not a perfect character, and he makes mistakes, but they're not like crippling character defects. They're just mistakes people make. And it's so much better as far as quality. And it's nuts to say that an animated cartoon, which is mostly written for kids, like it's probably rated T for teens, because there's some blood and sometimes people die. But for this animated show to be leaps and bounds better than Black Lightning astounds me. So this is going to be the last time you hear me talk about the CW show, unless it's canceled and I want to throw a party. But as I said, I'm done with this Book of Rebellion. I'm done with season 2. I'm done with the series as a whole, because the writing is awful. And that's the main problem. There are other little nitpicks, but I don't even have to touch them because writing's so bad. So, and normally I don't make a video condemning a series or attacking a series, but this one, I gotta make an exception. Black Lightning, So that's my review of Black Lightning, the series as a whole. You guys let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. You enjoyed this video? And I feel weird about it, but click the like button. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. This is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.